Hi there everyone, Josiah here with Womprat Creations, and today I'm going to be making a Gaffi stick out of stuff I found at the hardware store. Now, for those of you who are not aware, a Gaffi stick is the club that the Tusken Raiders carry, or Sand People. It is essentially a shaft with a pointed end and some fins right below the point. And at the end, it curves into this bulb with a spike coming out of it. And recently, we discovered in The Mandalorian that they often use these spikes to clean their bantha's teeth. I'm sure it's more of a multi-use tool. But regardless, I'm going to be making one today out of essentially just the stuff that I have in front of me. A couple funnels, a 3/4 inch pipe, a 1/2 inch pipe. This actually is the one thing that stopped me from making this for a long time, is I didn't know what to make the bulb out of on the one end. And I was at Lowe's, I was at Lowe's today, and I found this. This is a large bun foot. This is meant for like a couch or a chair. You screw this into the bottom and this is like a foot of the couch. But it is perfect for the bulb of the Gaffi stick. It has two flat edges right here, and then it has this curved section in between. So this is perfect. We're gonna have to modify it just a little bit, but the base shape is what I needed, and that is why I am making this. I finally found something to make the bulb out of. And then a couple fittings for PVC pipe, and this, but I don't even know what this is. This is a 10-inch anchor, it says. This is a plastic thing that I actually found right below these that I'm going to be using for the pointed end of my Gaffi stick. So yeah, I mean, I wish I could give you, it's essentially just a plastic spike. That's essentially all it is, but it'll work. Before I get going, I want to say that this is not going to be a exact replica. This is going to be kind of a down and dirty reproduction of a Gaffi stick. It'll look the part if you're, you know, not looking too closely, but if you look a little closely, if you look closer rather, you'll see that there are things that are not quite right, but that's okay. I like these kinds of builds. This is altogether, this probably ran me, oh, I don't even know, like 30, 40 bucks for all of this. It's not bad. I think the majority of, no, it couldn't have been that much. Maybe 20 or 30. 20 or 30 bucks for all of this, and hopefully at the end of it we'll have a pretty okay looking Gaffi stick. But the first, what do I want to start with first? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the hard part, because that's typically what I like to do for my builds. I like to do the hard part first, finish up on the easy stuff. So the first part that I'm going to be doing is modifying this portion of the bulb. The thing that I need to do is draw in a bunch of guidelines, because the bulb on the Gaffi stick has this grid on the bulb, and I am going to recreate that, and I think I'm going to do that mostly with my Dremel. But first things first, I need to do some measuring and mark this out, and then I'll move on to marking it. It's not going to be difficult, it's just going to be time consuming like most other things, but I'm excited for the final product, so let's get going. Okay, so pretty quick, right? I know that this is not the prettiest job. My measurements are not exact, but that's okay. If you look at the original props, they kind of have a handmade element to them, and some of that wonkiness kind of helps sell stuff like this. And I know that this grid that I have on here is also a bit bigger than the grid that they have on the actual Gaffi sticks, and that I'm also okay with. I didn't want to spend, I spent the latter part of yesterday doing this. My Dremel kept dying, and because I have a bad habit of not not charging it when I put it away. So yeah, I was trying to do this as quickly as possible because, like I said, this is not a replica build. This is more of a tribute. It'll look the part, especially the 5-foot rule will apply to this. The 5-foot rule, if you're not aware, is it looks right when you're standing 5 feet away. And sometimes that's all you need. That's what I'm going for today. So I have this section of my bulb done, and I think, what do I want to do next? What do I want to do next? What makes sense to do next? I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to forget about the bulb for a minute, and next I am going to start to construct the main part of my Gaffi stick, which means that I think this is a 2-foot 3/4 inch PVC pipe, and I think this is about the length that I want from this. But this is also a 2-foot section of 1/2 inch pipe, and I do not want that section of my Gaffi stick to be 2 feet. I think actually I'm going to be cutting it in half, because they're not. If you look at a Gaffi stick in the movies, they're not particularly big. And I know I'm sure I could go over to the RPF and find exact measurements on how long this thing is, but that's not what I'm doing today. I think I'm going to cut this in half so I have a foot, and then we'll attach it to this 2 feet. Oh, and the other thing that I'm going to have to do, and this is going to be a pain, I'm going to have to pull my Dremel out again because I could not find a reducing coupler for 3/4 to 1/2 inch that didn't have threads in it. So I do not have threads on my 3/4 inch pipe, so it won't quite fit in there. The threads are cutting into where it should be. So I'm going to have to go in with my Dremel and a sanding drum and sand down these threads inside the coupler. Thank God they're only on this part. Yeah, it's annoying, but so yeah. I'm gonna cut this down to size. I'm gonna sand out the threads in this coupler, and then we could put that together. And then I'll probably start on the point after that, but we'll see. Let's go. All right, you guys, I have the excuse me, I forgot to I forgot to attach my my 90-degree elbow here. I don't know why I forgot about that, but I have the base structure of my Gaffi stick. You saw me sand down the threads inside of this coupling, and then I use some all-purpose cement that is made for plumbing, specifically PVC, to make sure all of those stay together. And now I'm going to do the same thing for this 90-degree angle. By the way, I always relearn this lesson, but always have a rag nearby just in case. It's just good practice. Okay, I'm gonna plug that on there. Doesn't really matter which way it's facing. Okay. Especially when working with glues and stuff, it's easy to think to yourself, oh, I'll just clean that up later. But then it hardens and dries and you're not cleaning it up. So just have a rag nearby. All right. So now the base structure of my Gaffi stick is done, the base of it. I have my elbow up here that my bulb will at some point attach to. There's going to be another piece in between those two. And then down at the bottom where my point is going to be. And I think the next thing that I'm going to do, you know what? The next thing I'm going to do is going to be the fins. It's going to be the fins on, so this end of the Gaffi stick has the point that comes out of the top here, and we'll add that in a moment. But below that, it has some fins that stick out. It almost makes it look like a dart. And I am going to be making my fins out of some 080 styrene, I think. If I have, I'm actually kind of running a little low on styrene. I have some on order and it will be coming in soon, but the supplier that I use for styrene is wonderful because they give you quantity discounts and they can, I can get a whole bunch of big sheets of all kinds of thicknesses for fairly cheap, but they're not the fastest on shipping. So I need to see if I have enough 080 styrene to get through this. And I could use a thinner styrene too, but 080 just has a nice rigidity that anything smaller than that just doesn't. And 080 is about the thickest that I ever have on hand. I think I have enough to make these fins. So yeah, I'll find some. But the next thing I'm going to do is cut out the fins, which means I am going to draw out one and cut it out, and that will be my template. And how many fins does a Gaffi stick have? Is it 3 or 4? I want to say 3. No, I think it's 4. Let's see. Yeah, it's 4. 4 fins. All right, so always have some reference handy. Yeah, so I'm going to cut out one, and then I'm going to use that to trace out all the other ones and cut them out. And then I will attach them to this. And I still have to make some decisions about how I want to attach them, because I'm not sure if I want to go through the process of actually cutting out slots so that they can go into the pipe for a little more rigidity, or if I just want to glue them to the outside. This is a round surface, and round surfaces tend not to, it's also very smooth. I know I'm gonna regret it if I don't. So I'm gonna get out my Dremel again. First thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut out the darts, or the fins. Then I will take my Dremel and cut out little slots in just on the 4 cardinal directions of this pipe. That way they'll be able to go into the actual pipe itself and have a little bit more to hold on to. They'll also all join up in the middle, which will also help with the structural integrity of my Gaffi stick. So yeah, I guess that's it. It's gonna be some work, but let's get to it. I lied. I am not going to be cutting slots in my Gaffi stick because I looked at the reference pictures and you can actually see where your fin meets your Gaffi stick. You can see a weld on either side of the fin at the base where it meets, and I am going to replicate that. And the way I'm going to replicate that is with some hot glue. So I'm going to put down the fin in its place with some super glue, and then I'm going to go around with a hot glue gun and replicate a fake weld on either side of the fin. The super glue and the hot glue, the combination of those will be totally fine to keep these on here. I'm not actually going to be whacking anyone with this thing, so that'll be fine. I was looking, so I know hot glue is not going to be, it's not like the best way out there to replicate a weld, but it's a quick and dirty way that you can do it, and if you take your time you can get some really cool results. From what I can tell, there was no cleaning up on the weld. From the reference pictures that I can see, the weld that they had on these was not a pretty weld, and it wasn't like, no one took some time to clean it up afterwards. So it's a pretty messy weld, which is perfect for the hot glue, but we'll get to that in a second. For right now, I'm gonna put all these down. All right. Let me see if I can get you guys to get an okay view of this. You might not be able to get a good view of it now, but all of the edges have been hot glued. They are all, I would a little messier than the welds that I saw in the reference pictures, but that's okay. I kind of started to think about, I just wanted to show you guys the kind of cool results that you can get with that. So now what I need to do is, while that's drying, I am going to cut the tip off of this so that we can put it in there, and then the only thing left will be to actually construct the bulb on this end, and then we'll be ready for some paint. That's when this whole thing is going to really come together. Super excited for that. But I really wish I had a bandsaw. It's on the list of things to do, but it would make things like cutting the tip off of this so much easier. All right, you guys, my Gaffi stick is done, and I know this is kind of it's a little crunchy in some areas, but that's okay. The whole point of this build was not to make a perfect replica. It was to demonstrate that you don't need crazy materials or tools to make something that's pretty respectable. This was done with 100% stuff that I just found at the hardware store, and I mean, it's important to remember that it can be easy to watch someone execute something and just think that it's totally beyond what your skill set is or your access to materials or tools is. And while that may be true with some things, there's usually a version of something that you can make like this, where it's not perfect, but I mean, this is respectable. this is a respectable Gaffi stick, and I could spend some time and really weather this up and make it look really nice, but I think this is fine. I think I wanted to demonstrate that this was, I mean, altogether, while this was filmed over the course of 2 days, that's really just because I'm not managing my time very well. But altogether, if I put all of the time together that I was working on this, probably 2 or 3 hours, maybe. And most of that time was just carving out the details in the bulb. So, I mean, you can get as exact or as not exact as you want with these kinds of builds, and I just think it's fun. I did want to show you guys real quick the, let me see here. Let me see if I can get it good. The fake weld that I got on these. Once it's painted, you can see that is believable as a weld. That hot glue trick, I think, is just a really quick and easy solution for creating a look like that. And you can see, even with just the basic paint job I have on there, it reads as a weld. And I mean, if I went in and did a couple washes with some black and then some little spots of rust, I mean, that would really sell. I'm pretty pleased with how this came out. And altogether, like I said, few hours, couple bucks at the hardware store, you have yourself a respectable Gaffi stick. Thank you guys for tuning in for another Scratch build. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Hey, if you enjoyed that video, consider checking us out on Patreon. Patreon is a great way to help support the channel directly, and it allows us to give you some cool stuff in return, like free 3D models of all of the shop infrastructure builds that I do. You can get free merch and a whole bunch of other really cool stuff. So go check it out. Thanks, guys.
517 to scanner control. 517 to scanner control. 316, report to control. 53 to upper bay door. 53 to upper bay door.